Jay Bacani, good morning. How are you?
IB, morning, brother.
Great to see you, mate. How many sessions have you and I done like this? 2 years worth,
Yeah, 2 years. I'd say 2 years worth.
at
You're my
least.
first mentor, so
Thank you, mate. It was an honour to do that. But we haven't sort of caught up for about 8 months or so. But I
correct.
keep an eye on you. I'll definitely keep an eye on you guys. For those of you who don't know, this is Jay Bacani, legend, great guy. Worked with him for a couple of years. One of the founders of Manor Real Estate in Northwest Hills, Sydney.
Yeah, Northwest, yeah.
Um, Jay's a great agent on his own. Do you put yourself in those awards? Do you actually nominate yourself or no?
No, no. Yeah, maybe
No.
I should.
I actually don't think that. Anyway, if he did,
Yeah,
he would definitely be in the top 10 or 20, no doubt. Five
thank you.
offices, 84 staff. You kind of modeled yourself a lot around breast. I mean, a lot of the conversations we had, Manor in a way is kind of like a Bresic Winnie, 5, 10,
It
15
is.
years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Following the
Um,
footsteps of the greats.
Mate, I really appreciate you coming on. Firstly, how are you?
Very good. Healthy as I've felt. Have an 8-month-old beautiful daughter, a beautiful wife.
Mm,
Mate, feeling good.
good on you. You deserve it. And how's the year been? Because we're now sort of early June. How's the year been for you personally, and then for Manor as well? I'm interested.
Um, Probably better than last year, I'd say, in regards to momentum.
Yeah.
We tried to set the tone with the interim auction that we did at the beginning of the year, this year, which helped us create pace and just, like I said earlier, create that momentum. For myself personally, we're on track
Yeah.
to do the numbers that we're trying to,
Yes.
which is really 150 sales this year. So we'll get halfway through that by the end of this month, and yeah, hopefully pull through by the end of the year. So
So, so
as a business wise, I think we're aiming for 800 sales this year.
fantastic, mate. That's really good.
Yeah,
800 sales is a lot. It's a great business, and I've had the pleasure of
thank you.
working with a couple of you guys. I'm really interested about what made you like those first years, JB, when none of us knew who you were before Manor. So you got into it.
Yes,
You got into real estate at what age?
23, 23, straight after uni.
Yep.
Yeah,
Keep going.
23.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Yeah. So 23 years old, straight after uni, sent a few applications, got into a boutique firm out near Parramatta Way. I worked there for about I'd say 8 to 9 months. Then
Doing?
applied for a role. It's actually a small boutique firm in Pemmo Way.
Yeah. And what
Only
were
a
you
small
doing?
office. Everything. Receptionist slash leasing slash sales associate slash signboard guy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Bottom
all
of
the
the
running around stuff.
bottom of the ladder.
I'll make the bottom stuff.
And and 9 months there at 23, then you went to?
So then I ended up going to the Hills, Northwest. I joined Ray White in Borkham Hills.
Yes.
So I was there for about from 2012 till 2016,
Great.
end of 2012,
Okay.
and yeah, to mid 16.
So you do about 4 or 5 years at Ray White. Did you go straight into sales?
Yeah, so I applied for a sales associate role,
Yes.
but they didn't have any role. They only had sales roles.
Yes.
So I was chucked in the deep end there for a bit. So it was either sink or swim for me when I
And
got to Ray White.
just so we all know, so you start, no one knows who you are. You've done 8 months at Pemble Way. You go into Ray White, you get a sales associate role. Is that right?
Yes,
And
correct.
and
Oh no,
what
no, so no, they didn't have a sales associate role. They only had a sales role.
so you went straight into sales.
Correct.
Okay, let's stay here for a minute. How then do you go from a standing start to what did the next 4 years look like at that point when you started?
The first year was hard.
For everybody.
Yeah, yeah. That first year was probably the most challenging for me, career wise.
Yes.
Just because I didn't have any mentors, I didn't have really anyone to kind of bounce ideas off. The office I was in wasn't too supportive, so there was a lot of negative things that at that time I didn't know that was. I just thought that was the industry.
Yes.
I thought it was sink or swim.
Normal. Yeah.
They yeah, they kind of just gave me a white pages or whatever they gave you back then to say, hey, here's your patch, here's white pages, go and call. So I really had to find really creative ways to try to get a few listings on the board. So there was a bloke that left that office, so I went through all his MA lists, anything that he's appraised.
Yeah.
He was quite diligent and organized, so I just went through that. I would rinse that for 7 days. So I would come in on a Sunday. I would work till 3 p.m. So from 9 to 3, I'd just call all that list. So 7 days a week, I would work. I would go for the low hanging fruit because no one really taught me how to build a database. So expired listings, withdrawn listings, and I would milk every OFI list.
Good on you.
So yeah, so I did that at the start because I was creating, I was racking up all this debit.
Yes.
I think that fear of seeing my payslip and knowing that I owe the company that much money, I've never been used to that, coming from a sales associate role. So it really it's almost this fear that I felt like I owed the bank money of some degree.
Yes.
So I just had to pay that off. So the first year was just trying to really be able to not even swim, but just float or tread water at this point. Yeah. So that first year, I'd say, would probably be the most difficult because I didn't see. Yeah, like I said earlier, I had no guidance, I had no mentor. I just had to really persist through.
Yeah, and you're not making money, so you don't know if what you're doing is working. Okay.
Correct.
So you work this list, you work the callback books, you're making calls, you're working 7 days a week, and what happens next?
No, what? So it was interesting. I was about to leave the industry. I actually said to my now wife, which was back then my partner. I said to her, "Look, I'm going to leave." So I started applying for property valuation courses, and I thought, you know what, I'm in property. This guy's come in for half an hour, do a valuation, walk out, and gets paid $100,000. That sounds like a good deal to me.
Yeah.
So I'll go with that. So I applied through University of Western Sydney, did an application. And I had a little pep talk with one of my mates that's in Calgary in Canada. I said, "Look, I'm going to leave," and he gave me a little talk as to why I should persist and really just pull my finger out and just keep going. He said, "Look, stop having a whinge, pull your finger out, and just keep going." So I said, "You know what? You're right. Why am I giving up so easy?" So I went out there, and that same day when we had that chat, I actually secured a listing on that street that my car was parked in while I was having that conversation with him. Luckily enough, it was in the suburb that I was servicing, and after that, I just leveraged hard from it. So because the result was a great result at that time, I had this surge of energy, of confidence that I was maybe made for the job. So I on that same day that I sold it on that Saturday, I called the whole street. I door knocked the whole street. I dropped it. I called all my warm leads, the ones that I missed. I sent a text message to. So I just, even to the point that all the money I invested into going back into that campaign. So I put a sold board with my face on it, which was back then was no one was really doing back then. Yeah. So I just really try to leverage that one sale. And interestingly enough, from that one sale, I pick up another one at the end of the street, and it just kept rolling from there. So and as soon as I secured that listing, it gave me more confidence. So that game of inches just kind of worked, and I just rinse and repeat that. And by the time you know it, here we are. But I think it's that confidence piece. During that time, I was very doubtful whether I was made for this industry or not. I think a lot of people are.
They do. Sure. I had the same thing. In my
first,
after working with Shannon, he pushed me out as an agent, and I lost like 6 listings in a row, and I was like, maybe I'm not cut out for this, because I saw all these other agents listing heaps. I was like, maybe I'm not. And then you're right, like you win one and then win another and go, and then so you do that, you start building a little bit of momentum. You've only been doing it a couple of years. Did you largely learn on your own, or were you reaching out for help with others outside the business or within the business? How did you learn mostly by mistake or through others?
mistake and watching others. So back then, I think Tom Panos used to come out with, I forgot what it was, $1 Million Agent or something like
Real
that.
estate gym or something. Yeah, yeah.
Real estate gym. So I didn't quite. I didn't quite invest in that, but I would watch any YouTube clips or any short clips of any training session,
Yes.
such as that. And I just learned from that. Or I would observe other agents. Actually, one of the guys that I know now, which I observe closely, mainly around Concord, in regards to how he marketed himself, how he used sold boards, and I just kind of replicated that and go, oh, okay, I'm going to bring that into the hills. So little things. So I learned from other people, not so much as a mentor, but that's probably something that I should have invested in at the start. I probably did it a lot later than I should have.
Yeah.
And really self-taught, really making sure what I did do well is making sure that any listing that I won or I gained, I would always ask for feedback. And I was naturally curious about, I mean, if I didn't get it, why I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just one of those people that I just want to know how someone won it over me, and
Yeah.
I also want to know why I didn't win it. So, and from that, I just replicated that in all aspects of the business, whether it be just the way I do things. I'd
Yeah.
always ask for feedback if there's anything I can do,
Yes.
and I don't know if that you would say that's self-taught, but I gain a lot of knowledge from those feedback.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking a few things away from this. I mean, you obviously had the hunger and the desire, so that's different for everybody, but you clearly had it from an
Yes.
early age. Um, you did whatever it was like you had to work really hard. You found a couple opportunities, executed on them, and then tried to multiply.
Yes.
And along the whole way, you kept looking at some hero agents out in the market and trainers. You took a little bit from them online, and also you always ask for feedback. So there's some really good points there. How long do you think it was from when you started with that office? I think it was a Ray White office to a point, JB, where you're starting to get momentum and feeling confident. Was that a year, 3 years, 5 years? How long was that? Can you recall?
2 years, yeah. It was between it was around. So I started there in November 2012. I would probably say towards mid to late 2014.
Yeah.
Um,
Is when you.
yeah, I started to gain momentum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's when I started to gain momentum. I started to, you know what it is too. You started to see how effectively you start to see money coming in, and you go, okay, this can be very viable. Then you start to see a future in the business, and then I start thinking of it. Okay, well, you start thinking of it as your business now, and you start
Yes.
taking it more seriously. Not that I didn't take it seriously before. I was just kind of finding the gaps at the start, and then as time went on, I started to think of it. Oh, okay, I do have a future here. So I took it more seriously than I ever did.
Yes. As you grew and as you progressed, you'd started to take
Yeah,
it seriously and you started to realize this is a legitimate business within a business.
correct.
And everything I do is a reflection of who we are and whatever. And you were doing that as an
Correct.
employee.
Yeah, as an employee, that's right, exactly.
Correct. So you've got a lot of young people who work at the business, and some have come through and become great agents and partners and stuff. When young people start at Manor, for example, or start with you, what's your advice to them to get going? Which direction are you leading them on? What are you saying they should be doing if they want to succeed in what we do?
I think first of all, it's a mind shift to somehow instill within them that this is their own business that they're building.
Yeah.
Because what we found now, if they feel that they're doing it, if I do feel that they're doing it for me, or they feel that they're doing it for me, it's never going to work. Because so we had to really drill into them that this is their own business, this is their name, this is their reputation. So if they do take time off, or even if they do slack off, or if they don't do the activities, they're robbing their future self.
That's on them. Not.
So, yeah, that's right. So that's the first thing that we try to mold them, because I think teaching them how to prospect, teaching them how to list or manage vendors, that's easy.
Yeah.
But what we find now with, I wouldn't even say the younger generation, just the generation that's coming through, it's just making sure that they have that instilled within them earlier on.
Yes.
And also setting expectations early, knowing that it might take 5 years to go out on your own. And rather than them see, because sometimes they do envy some of the younger agents within the company, and they want that now.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
setting those expectations, saying, look, it is a 5-year plan, and this is what it will look like, and this is what you'll get out of it.
Yeah.
Setting expectations, setting mindset, the skill stuff we can teach them. That's because they, like, even now they're doing from 8:15 to 12 o'clock. They have 45-minute call blocks.
Yeah.
So they're all humming right now in regards to in the space that we're in.
Good on you.
So
some
yeah,
gold there. So you're saying that pretty much they have to take ownership as if it's a company within they've got a business within the business. So therefore they're taking
100%.
more responsibility for what they're doing, both their
Yes.
wins and their losses.
100%.
You're saying that the skills is something we'll teach them. We can teach them to prospect, list, negotiate, how to manage a vendor, how to do an open house, how to do callbacks. If they've got the right attitude, we can teach them that no problem.
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah, love it. And I agree with you on the 5-year thing. I mean, you did it in 2 or 3 years, which is quick. McClay did it in about 3 years. You know, he went from start, but he did do leasing first. But so I found that high performer, like the top 1% guys like you, they seem to get from 0 to 80 pretty quick. Whereas most take 5 years. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
What databases are you suggesting to the young ones or to the ones coming in? What should they be focused on when it comes to database?
You know what? Now, because we're asking them to really think of it as their own business, so the mental shift of whether they're dealing with a buyer or a current seller or a future seller,
Yeah,
it is building that relationship from the start more so than ever now. I think the relationship that they build with buyers, modeling what Bressing Winnie does, is something that we're trying to instill within the business.
Yes.
Because in the hills where we are, buyers are very, I would say, neglected.
Yeah.
Compared to in the west or eastern suburbs. I don't know why. It's just the way it seemed to be, and we want to be able to change that and shape that. So
Yes.
that's what we're trying to do. It's really that's why the OFI list is so important. And we still consider that as a low hanging fruit, that OFI list.
Yeah.
Rather than going out door knocking. So we would get them to rinse that and make sure that they find out where everyone lives within the OFI list. Whether they're selling or they're not, at least they've found out, and whether they have other investments. But we call it cherishing the connect. So we'll get them to cherish that connect with that buyer, making sure that they get as much from that conversation, whether it be data, whether it be an appraisal, whether it be a referral lead of some sort of finance, whatever it may be. But we would do that.
You're saying, sorry, JB, you're saying that the best thing for the young ones now is callback books and servicing buyers. There's an enormous opportunity to speed up your career if you focus on those areas because you create relationships. You're saying, because I interviewed Charles Toomer last week, who used to work at BW Ray White, and he said to me, I said, would you do things at 1%? And he said, mate, if I had very low listings and I had an opportunity to get a house in my market, he goes, I won't even think about it. He goes, because I'm not thinking it, whether it's 20 grand or 40 grand at 2%, I'll be happy to take a 20 grand fee because I'm going to meet 100 people and I'm going to squeeze the lemon through that sale. From that, and you're saying exactly the same thing. A callback, could be worth $100,000 to an agent if they have the right mindset and they actually work it. That's what you're saying.
Most definitely. And on top of that too, prior to the callback, that open home in itself. So we have a competition within my team, in which I try to instill within everyone from Manor, of who books the most listing appointments at an open home. So we have, it's really 3 qualifying questions that we ask, which is, what do you think about the home? So we answer the queries about that. Then the second question is, do you live in the street? No. And then from that conversation, we'll find out if they live in a suburb. Yes. And then the third question is very simple. Have you had anyone from Manor out? And if they haven't, then we not invite ourselves in, but we suggest.
So 3 qualifying questions. What do you think of the home? Number 1. Number 2.
Yes.
Do you live in the area or do you live in the suburb?
Yeah, correct.
And number 3, someone from our business come out and see you.
Yeah.
And if there's no,
Three.
when can we come out and see you? It's really good. Three
Yeah,
easy.
three.
I haven't heard three simple
Three
ones.
easy questions.
I've got like a 6 or 7, but I love those three. That I'm sure that works really well. So that's really good. You've obviously, you're 30 something, I'm 40 something, and there's a lot of 20 somethings coming through. How much should they be working? Because I know when I was in my 20s, I worked my ass off and I loved it. You're saying that when you started, you were working 7 days a week. So I know that you're in your 30s now, you're married, kid, and you've matured in life, which I'm really happy to see.
Yeah.
What's your advice to a lot of people about how much they should be working Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and what's your advice on holidays and breaks?
Yeah. So holidays and breaks is something that I would suggest for them. So I would heavily suggest to still take time off for holidays and during those important breaks.
Yes.
Because I think this industry, no matter how, I guess, how often they work doesn't mean they're going to be effective. So what we want to try to do is make sure that they maintain that energy and still that motivation. And I find giving them those breaks, they actually come back refueled and re-energized.
Yes.
Now, in regards to the time, so I always tell my staff, well, this is your business. If it was your business, would you take 5 days? Would you work 5 days, 6 days, or 7 days? Whatever your perception is, and however hard, it's up to you. However hard you're willing to work. Now, for myself, I always say to them, the bottom, the agents that's on top of the top 1% are here.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a big gap. There's almost like a mountain to climb.
Yeah.
And the rest of the agents are down here.
Yes.
I said, the problem is the top 1% agents are always getting better. They're getting fitter. They're focusing more on their health. They're focusing on their energy, on their time management, and they're still learning. They're still listening to podcasts. So I said, that gap is getting further and further away. So that mountain, I say, is getting higher and higher. So the more the top 1% agents improve themselves, the bigger that gap is. Now, if they're working more than you, if they're learning more than you, if they are focusing more on their health, their energy, and also on their breaks and being efficient, how are you going to beat them? Yeah. So I said, I feel.
Well, not even how are you going to beat them? How are you going to even compete with them?
Oh, how will you even break through? Because every time you try to climb up, you get knocked back.
Yeah, it's true.
So for us, I said, I always challenge. I said, you can be a great lister, but gaining one listing doesn't mean that getting one listing over that top 1% agent doesn't mean that you've won over them, or you're even able to compete in that same realm.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I try to make it. That's the easiest way I can explain to them.
Good.
For them to try to understand.
No, I like it. It's a good explanation. You're saying that most people are not in the top 1 or 5%. So if you're anywhere below in that 95% threshold, you have to be looking at that top 5 or 1% saying, well, if they're doing all that, how can I close the gap to even compete?
Yes.
What do I have to do to compete? So if that means I have to work so many hours, or that's my choice, but I have to accept that that's the bar.
Correct.
That's the bar.
Exactly. Yeah. If they want to compete in that level, they have to understand the sacrifice that it takes. Now, if they're not willing to make that sacrifice, that's fine. But they will never compete at that level, which means it will be harder for them. So anyone that doesn't compete within that 1 to 5%, I feel it's even harder because you're continually trying to get up to that level. The top 1 to 5% are on cruising altitude already.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good way
and for them, they're going to get less opportunities if they're not in that top 1 to 5%. Yeah. They're not going to get as many call-ins. Yeah. So the opportunities are slim. And
so if you go back, because you weren't always in the 1 to 5%.
No.
So you're here. So you didn't really think about it. You just want to succeed and make every post a winner. So you worked, invested, learnt, but you're a sponge, kept building your database, did whatever you could to try to work your way up to the top.
100%. So all I did, if we go into that metaphor of that mountain, all I focused on is that first step. So I never focused on the. So I was never focused on the top. I only focused on the first step. And by the time you know it, I actually said to someone 2 weeks ago, did you have a plan for this? I said, no. I said, I got in front of my staff. This is when we were 40 plus. And
Yeah.
I looked up and I, I actually nearly, my legs went weak because I didn't realize how big it got. Because I was in this mindset of just organically trying to climb each step.
Yeah.
And I was in like autopilot almost.
Well, you don't realize, like you
No,
don't
no.
start out of real estate thinking it's going to have 5 offices and 100 people. You
Yeah.
start saying, hey, let's start this business and, let's see where it goes. I think we can do it. And then you do a good job and it just organically look at where it's got to.
Yeah.
What's the mistake you see with the people who are not in the top 15%? Because I think the top 15% make most of the company. What's the mistake that the other 85% you see are making? Is it generally like,
You know what? I don't think they value their time as much. So earlier on, I don't know why, but I felt so before I started real estate, a few of the people that I went to university with and school with obviously went on about their careers, and I would watch them as they grow, and I felt that I was falling behind. So I always felt even when I first started that I was already behind time at 23 years old. So in saying that, so I would never, even till now, when I would have lunch, it would be between 5 to 10 minutes. 5 to 10 minutes is when I would have lunch. If I have banter with people in the office, it would be for a few seconds. I'll have a laugh and then go back.
yeah,
So it's I understand that the more, like I said earlier, the more time I waste now, the more time I rob my future self.
yeah,
So there was always a fear inside me that when I'm here, I'm on, and I don't think people in the top 1 to 5% understand that their time is so valuable.
yeah, yeah,
And because that was instilled at a very early stage in my career,
yeah.
I had to really make sure that every time I progressed, sorry, every time I wasted time, I didn't progress,
Yeah.
and I almost felt sick
Yeah,
if
I
I
find,
yeah.
sorry, you go.
No, no. Oh yeah, so and I almost felt that every time I wasted time, that like I said, I felt sick in the stomach.
Yeah, it's funny that like I look at all these high performers that I know I've worked with and whatever.
Yeah.
You all have this level of urgency, but for some
Mm.
reason you had it earlier on in your career. Often it's out of fear or insecurities, like it was for me.
Correct.
People had failed somewhere else, our childhood. Like I actually don't know I actually still trying to find the answer as to why all of us high performers, for some reason, had this level of urgency that we couldn't fail. Like
Yeah.
we worked like we couldn't fail. That's how
Yeah.
when I meet you guys, like I'm on the same page. I get exactly what you're saying. So it's like I'm still trying to work out if someone doesn't have that, can they gain that? Do you think
Oh yeah.
you do?
I think this is, yeah. You know what? Because I've been able to witness it, and when gain that, it might be gaining it halfway through their career. So there's a guy within our office that hopped around for about 6 to 8 years before they joined our office,
Yes.
and from that there was it's almost a switch that you see in them, and you know what it might be. It might be that they figured out that they it might be just because they got momentum and they go, oh, this is working, and they build some confidence, and
Yeah.
there's this switch
And
that kind of
bang,
turns, and you see it. I see it. It's amazing because I've watched someone in our office
do it.
from not being that top 1 5% to the top 1 5%, and you in their eyes you see it.
Yeah.
It's almost they hit that switch, and it's actually that one of the most rewarding thing to watch when
As
you
a
go, oh
as a
my god,
director. Yeah.
as a director, you watch them and you go, oh my god, they've hit that level, and you
Yeah.
just watch their journey from
The
there.
hard thing
It's
now
one of
is
the, yeah.
trying to make sure that you keep their ego in check.
Yeah. You know
Yeah,
what?
that's a whole.
That's a whole other ball
Yeah,
game right there.
yeah, but it's funny because I like Will Pereira, who used to work at Bressy, when he was another one. Like he bounced around, and then like he just exploded. Like he came in and off he went. Like actually, he came as a really accomplished agent, but then just
Yes.
and Chris Nunn was
So
another
far.
at Bressy Whitney. Like whereas the other guys, like Oddie, always worked with urgency. Liddell, me, Shannon, McClay, Will Phillips, Michael. Like the other leaders there, they always. But there are some examples where they didn't, and then they switched and off they went. Um,
Yeah.
So sorry, just so you're saying the biggest mistake that people make is they waste time.
Yeah,
I would
they,
agree.
they don't value time. They don't organize their day.
Yeah.
They keep busy, but they're not really busy. I mean,
Yeah.
I watch it in this office now.
Yeah. I call it they're busy, but they're not busy productive.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I would agree. JB, how important are goals as far as you're concerned as a salesperson, as a director, a founder?
Now more than ever. So I was never a big goals person until probably in the last 5 years.
Mm.
I find that you don't actually see the reward until you set your goals.
Yeah,
And now more than ever, now that I have my goals right here.
yeah,
Um,
love it.
but just having that in front of me, and it does for myself. It's personal health,
Mm.
financial.
Yeah,
Knowing setting those goals and achieving them and kind of ticking them off is probably one of the most rewarding things to
yeah,
have.
I agree. Yeah,
Yeah. And knowing
I
at the end of the year, you look
yeah,
at your goals and you go, "Oh my God, I achieved nearly every single one of them."
yeah,
And you go, and because time, I think we go into this time lapse when we're so busy that we don't realize or sometimes appreciate what we achieve.
yeah.
We don't, and that's something that I'm learning. Probably I've learned, especially with your guidance over the last few years,
Thank you.
on really how to appreciate the wins and really, how to savor it. So now that's something that I do more often now. I really savor every moment. Yeah. So I just find I enjoy life more now, just savoring every win.
Good on you, mate. I'm really
Yeah.
proud of you because I think you look fantastic health wise, and you're a dad.
Thank you.
You're going on a trip shortly, which I always encourage.
Yes.
Business is going really well. What's the hardest thing about being an agent, mate? Do you think?
Uh,
There's a
you
few.
know what? I don't, it's funny because when you ask me how hard is it being an agent, I almost try to automatically compare it into a business owner, so which I shouldn't, because obviously I got multiple hats that I had to
Yeah.
play.
Well,
Being an
there's
agent actually for me,
that's two questions. What's the hardest thing about being an agent? What's the hardest thing about being a business owner?
being an agent, I'd probably say is trying to stay as relevant while for me personally and being a business owner. So having those two hats,
Yeah,
I think playing those two hats is probably one of the most difficult thing,
it
and
is.
having that balance.
It is.
Having that balance for me is probably one of the most difficult thing being an agent, is being able to detach yourself to say it's okay if you don't sell X amount of homes
Yes.
because you're so wired to do more
Yeah.
that you almost have to detach yourself to say, mate, it's fine. Like you'll probably see the goals I sent to you. I drop my goals back to be able to know that okay, I'm happy with that. That it's less than what it was last year. But in saying that, I know that I have more time for spending time with my daughter, my wife, or the business
All the
in that
business.
essence.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And what's the
yeah.
hardest thing about being a business owner?
I think it will always be, you know what? Um, Giving time to everyone because that's probably what they want of me.
Yeah,
Yeah, and knowing who to give my energy to.
yeah,
So I understand that I can only give a certain amount of energy to people within the company,
yeah.
but knowing how to give it to and making sure I draw the line somewhere because there's a lot of people in my business that probably need more attention,
Yes.
but they become independent, so they become almost like a koala that they almost need your confirmation for everything.
Yes. Yeah.
So drawing the line and saying no, this is mate, I'm happy to help, but this is where I draw the line because that it takes away from not just actually other staff, it takes away from your family.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're saying the biggest challenge with running a business is always people.
Yeah,
And I would agree,
always.
having been in that position. And you've got to get better at drawing boundaries because you can't be everything to everybody. Otherwise, you're going to sacrifice a lot of your personal welfare and personal
Yeah,
health for the sake of things where you've got to put yourself first at some stage.
correct.
And in terms of being an agent, you're saying the biggest challenge now for you being an agent is balancing your time between being an agent and being a director of the business, which,
Ah,
which
100%.
like, oh, mate, that was hard for me too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the most like saying, okay, well, if I have a one-on-one with someone, I can't cancel it because I have a listing appointment.
Mm.
And you go, which one do you value more?
Important. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So,
That's funny.
so that's that I find little things like that battle in my mind probably the most challenging.
Any mistakes? If I said to you, JB, is there anything you would have changed in your 20s in your real estate
Oh,
journey? What
yeah.
stands out?
I have a few actually.
Please, up to him.
One, I should have engaged a mentor earlier. Because I was progressing without a mentor,
Mm.
I just thought I didn't need a mentor. Okay, well, you know when they say don't, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yes.
But I disagree with that. I think there's a way that you can make it go faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, second, I should have probably focused on my health more.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so now I focus a lot on my sleep. I'm just something I'm trying to control at the moment.
Mm.
Um, so exercise and eating now I've got down pat. So sleep I find is probably the most important.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Um, and really I should have focused on surrounding myself with better people at the start. I hung around a crowd that probably influenced me, influenced me in a way that made me make decisions that now I'm not proud of. You know, in hindsight, I should have surrounded myself with better people at the start. Those three are probably the three mistakes that I
Mate,
made earlier.
mate, we'll probably finish on that because that's gold. So Jay's very successful, early 30s, has assets, has a great team. He's saying if I had the three things he said, if I had an opportunity, I would have put on a mentor earlier. Best tennis players in the world have a number of coaches. The second thing he's saying is that his health has become even more important as he's got older, which makes him sleep's important, his diet, his nutrition, and looking after himself so he can enjoy his success and be a better dad, be a better boss, have more clarity. And lastly, we are who we hang around. And so,
Oh,
if we hang around clowns, we become a circus,
yeah,
but most of us have been guilty of that at some point. And I've had to lead a lot of people away from their old friends or, people that are hanging around. I had to go through that myself. So, mate, that's gold, mate. Look, I'm really proud of what you're doing. I think there's some
thank you.
nuggets in there today. Well done on the success of the business and being a
Thanks,
dad.
IB.
Thank you for all your support, and I look forward to staying, a big supporter of yours and vice versa. So thank you.
Thanks, IB. Thank you, brother.
Have a great day. Thanks for your time.
Catch you later. Bye.